In this video, I'll show you how to insert multiple blank rows into your existing range of data. I'll cover two examples. The first one will be to insert just a single blank row in between each of these rows of data. And then the second example will be to insert multiple blank rows. So let's take a look at the first example of inserting a single blank row. Now, one way to do this, of course, is to go and select each of these single rows of data, and then if I press on the keyboard Control plus, there you can see I've now got a single blank row in between each of the existing rows of data. Now that of course will be very time consuming, especially if I've got hundreds of rows of data to do that for. So I'll show you then this example to do this in a much quicker way. So the first step you want to do is to assign a unique number to each row of data. So we'll go to the first row of data and we'll number that number 1. And then if we click on the cell that's got the number 1, we hold down the Control button and drag this bottom right corner all the way down to the last row of data. And there you can see I've now got a unique number for each of these rows of data. So the next thing to do is then copy these unique numbers and paste it below the last row of data that I've got. So still in the same column. Now the next step is then to go and sort this data. So if we go data sort, and then Excel will come up with this warning sign here. It basically sees that you've got this range selected here, but it recognizes that you've got some more data on this spreadsheet. So it's going to ask you whether you want to expand this selection, so to include all of this data here as well, or do you want to just continue with this current selection that you've got here. So what you want to do is you want to select or make sure that this expand the selection option is selected here. And then if we click on sort, the next step is to then say we want to sort it by this last column that's got a unique numbers. So we're going to click on column H. We're going to sort by cell values, and the order is going to be smallest to largest. And then we click on OK. So there you can see it's now inserted a blank row in between each of the rows of data that I already had. The next example then is to insert multiple blank rows. The process is exactly the same, it's just got one additional step. So let's take a look at that example then. Again, the first step is to assign a unique number to each of the rows of data. And we're going to start with row 1, or the first row here. We're going to number it 1. And then we are going to press on Control and drag that bottom right corner all the way down to the last row of data. And now for the additional step. So what you want to do is you want to leave one column blank and then move on to the next available column. So what we want to do is we want to say, so in what row number is the last row of data that I've got? So you can see the last row of data is appearing in row 15 of this spreadsheet. So we can either type in 15 or we can use a formula. I prefer to use a formula, and I'll explain in a second why. So the formula you can use is you can say equals row, open bracket, and then the reference is going to be just this last cell of the last row of data, or this last unique number here, and then close the bracket. So the reason I use a formula, and this is because, say for instance you realize that you've missed one row and you just want to quickly add another row. So you're going to do Control plus, and then you can see my last row of data is now moved to row 16. And then this number is automatically also adjusted for 16. So I don't need to worry about changing that manually afterwards. So let's just undo that quickly. Then the next step is to say how many blank rows of data do I want to insert in between each of these rows of data. So say in this example, I want to insert 3 blank rows in between each of these rows of data. So I'm going to say equals 3. And then the next step is to say, once I've inserted these 3 blank rows in between each of these rows, where will my last row of data then end up? So a way to kind of work that out is to say I've got 11 rows of data, so that's my last unique number there, and I'm going to multiply that by the number of blank rows that I want to insert. So I'm going to multiply it by that 3 there. So that means I've got to insert 33 additional rows in this existing data range that I've got. And then I can see that if I add the 15 and the 33, that will then tell me where's the last row of data that I'll end up with. So once I copy these unique numbers, basically 3 times, I'm going to do that, because that 3 times is going to represent the number of blank rows that I've got to insert. So then we're going to say, so our current last row of data is in row 15, and I'm going to add the number of blank rows, or the number of rows, additional rows that I've got to add. You can see that is now 48. So once I've added all these unique numbers 3 times, I will need to end up, or make sure it's ending up in row 48. So let's take a look then. So we're going to copy these unique numbers, and then we are going to paste them, and we're going to go all the way down to row 48. So yeah, there you can see now I've got these unique numbers. I've copied them 3 times. So again, now the same step as that's now going to follow as the previous example. We are going to sort these unique numbers. So we're going to do data sort. And again, Excel is going to come up with the same warning sign to say, yeah, it's recognized you've got these rows of data, or this data range selected, but you can see you've got more data on the spreadsheet. Do you want to expand the selection or continue with the current selection? So again, always make sure you've got expand the selection selected. So we're going to click on sort. And then of course, we want to sort it by these unique numbers. So that's in column H. So we are going to select column H, and we're going to sort on cell values, and the order is going to be smallest to largest. So we click on OK. And now you can see that it's inserted 3 blank rows in between each of the existing rows of data that I've got. So why would this be kind of useful to know, or why is this useful to kind of as a kind of a really short, quick tool that you can use? The reason would be just purely because, say I've got all of these different account names for this cost center here, and I want to say, okay, I recognize I'm going to have different revenue streams in this example. I want to maybe just add these different revenue streams here. So I'm going to say my first revenue stream is going to be, say, from retail. And then the third one is going to be from e-commerce. And then the last one is going to be from wholesale. So you can see that if you have to do this for each of these account names, it's going to be quite time consuming to go and insert it every time 3 blank rows. So this is a very quick way to just kind of get around that problem in a much quicker way. So yeah, I hope you found this quite useful. If you have, consider giving the video a thumbs up. And if you want to see some more cool videos that's going to be posted on the channel, also consider subscribing. Okay, I'll see you on the next video.